Visit OnFireTV.com for live top stories, breaking news, and original shows.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your man Diamond K in here. And I don't know. It's a lot. We're going to unpack this indictment. Diddy, of course, if you have been under a rock, has been arrested. The term that I guess we're going to have to become familiar with is freak off. Freak offs. Diddy's freak offs are at the center of the sex trafficking, racketeering charges. Diddy arrested amid a wave of lawsuits against him alleging sexual assault and misconduct. So the music mogul, I'm going to say the former music mogul because this is, I don't know. This is a lot. So the music mogul, Sean Diddy Combs, arrested last night at a hotel in New York City, has been charged with racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. So there was a hearing today in Manhattan. Combs pled not guilty. He was denied bail and will remain in custody. These charges are tied to freak-offs, coerced sex acts that Combs allegedly orchestrated and recorded, according to the federal indictment. Now, speaking of the indictment, we are going to look into this indictment. So it is a lengthy indictment, and let's do this. Boom. All right, perfect. All right, so count one is the racketeering conspiracy, and boom. All right, it goes as follows: for decades, Sean Diddy Combs, P. Diddy, Love, etc., the defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. So you see, they're building this language in a certain way. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led, controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates attempted to engage in, among other crimes, trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, obstruction of justice. They've been asking for a long time, why has it taken so long for these cases, these charges to come up? Why for so long has it been bubbling? A lot of these accusations kind of floating around, and they've been building the case. They raided his homes. They talked to a lot of different folks. They had grand juries, and it appears that they have the evidence that they want. They have denied him bail, and this case is going to shake up the music industry. Let's continue with this first count. Now, it says that Sean Combs, Diddy, and it has all of his aliases. The defendant operated a business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, Combs Global, collectively the Combs Business. Corporate entities in the Combs Business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio and apparel line, an alcoholic spirits brand, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. You wonder why Diddy stepped away from Revolt? This fiasco would have brought down any of the businesses that he was involved in. I don't think that any of the businesses that he's had anything to do with are going to be able to move forward. I don't know. Maybe can Revolt last? I don't know. I don't know. It is a lot. It is a lot to unpack. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. So they're saying that the abuse not only touched women, but touched men and what they're calling other individuals. The abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. Good evening. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. At times, Combs and others acting in his direction made arrangements for women and commercial sex workers to fly to Combs locations. Combs ensured participation from women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. So a lot of the things that you're going to hear, it's going to be obvious who some of the people involved are, right? At times you're going to hear references to cooperating witness. Cassie is not surprisingly a cooperating witness. So it continues. Physical abuse by Sean Combs, the defendant, was recurrent and widely known. Let me say that again. And let me say this in regular terms. They're saying that his behavior was known in the industry. Folks knew what was going on. And this is a federal indictment, right? So this is not a state matter. This is a federal indictment, but we're going to continue. On numerous occasions, from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. Now, this describes one of the videos that was distributed by CNN that Cassie was the victim on. You're hearing some of the behavior that we witnessed being described in this first count. And this is the racketeering conspiracy. This is count one. And this is signed off from the grand jury. So these assaults were at times witnessed by others and included one instance at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016. That's the video that we saw. And it was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman, as she was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. So he said he tried to. This occurred in 2016. We saw the video in 2024. Maybe the bribe was successful. No. Combs' violence was also not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. If you remember, and I don't know if you watched this or not, Making the Band. Making the Band was a show, and I guess it was like a reality, kind of a reality show, searching for artists and that kind of thing. And so we saw him insult, verbally abuse folks on the show, throw chairs, tantrums, different kind of tantrums. And I think that is just a small piece of how he actually behaved. If you remember that, he used to yell at some of those people that worked for him. I can't think of the lady's name. She was teaching them the artists to dance steps and things like that. She worked for him. He treated her horribly, and this is on camera on the TV show. So we continue here, and Sean Combs, the defendant, used Combs' businesses, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex. Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors and other close associates, acted as Combs' intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. So they've mentioned, as you can hear, they've mentioned the Combs businesses multiple times. They're going to be tied into this. Like I said, this whole structure is coming down. We cannot be distracted, as many have been, with the star nature of Combs and Bad Boy and all that has come with him. This arrest is only the first step in the road to accountability. There's a lot of similarities with R. Kelly's case, with the Jeffrey Epstein case. There's some similarities here. The conduct, there's some similarities. So they continue. This section is called the Combs Enterprise. And we are reading from the federal indictment. All right. And as you can see, this is the federal indictment. If you are looking at us on YouTube, DJ Diamond K on YouTube, if you're looking at us on Fire Broadcasting. So this indictment is damning. It is damning. All right. And so we're going through this indictment, and I really wanted to really take some time and unpack it and really sit with this, because this is going to have ramifications throughout the music industry. You know, those white parties, you know, those Diddy events, a lot of the things that we're discussing happened allegedly after those things, like the after. This is the after party. And so some people are saying, you know, because there were like 1,000 bottles of baby oil that they took in, and some weapons and some different things. And we're going to get to that. But folks are like, what's wrong with them having all the baby oil and the personal lubricant and things like that? And we're going to get into that because women and it appears men were forced to do things against their will. There's that power dynamic that is always present in these type of bad cases. So we continue, and this is under the heading of the Combs Enterprise. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs Enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise as defined by Title 18 United States Code Section 1961-4. That is a group of individuals associated, in fact, although not a legal entity. And this is why the racketeering classification is being added, and how they're going to pull that together. The Combs Enterprise consisted of Sean Combs, and they list all of his aliases, the defendant, entities within the Combs business, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, Combs Global, individuals employed by and associated with the Combs business, and others known and unknown. Are the boys going to be wrapped up in this? Are we going to see other rappers involved in this? Are we going to see other music executives involved in this? We're going to talk tomorrow about the sudden departure of Kevin Liles from 300 Entertainment. Kevin Liles, Baltimore's own. We're going to talk about Kevin Liles tomorrow, but today we're just focusing on this indictment, unpacking this indictment, and continuing with it. Okay, so we are on page 4 of the indictment, and it is something else. It is something else. So the Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. I assume that the objectives of the Combs Enterprise was to make money, right? But they are trying to act like this is a criminal enterprise. This is something else. So the Combs Enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, was the leader of the Combs Enterprise. And so they're trying to establish Sean Combs' place in the business, the organization, the enterprise. They're trying to establish that he was in control of what was happening. They're trying to put him in the forefront. And I think that they have effectively done that. All right. So they've established who the business is, what the business is, who controls the business. Now, the next heading is the purposes of the Combs Enterprise. What is the purpose? And they, according to the grand jury, they said operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcohol spirits brand, a marketing agency, and a television network. All right. In addition to that, preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brands of Sean Diddy Combs, the defendant, as a musician, entrepreneur, and a figure in the entertainment industry. I think that that's correct. They also note that they wanted to enrich members and associates of the enterprise, including its leader, Combs, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Combs and a willingness to conceal his crimes. And that is something that you're going to hear more focus on. That the organization, and this is heading C of the subheading of the purposes of the Combs Enterprise. And the number 3, C, which is concealing the crimes. So they are demonstrating they believe this is a criminal enterprise, right? So it's, promoting Diddy and his brands and all of that and making money, but also to conceal his crimes, preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of Combs Enterprises. Combs, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly those related to Combs' sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers. Now we're getting to some of the things that are really, really at the heart of bringing down this this man and everybody around him. F. This is section F. Enabling Combs and other members and associates of Combs to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including sexual violence, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, right? Transporting folks across state lines. So it continues along that, securing absolute loyalty from members of the Combs enterprise through acts of violence, threats, etc. So it's funny because the image that Diddy put forward to the public was not this. This is not how he presented it and not how he wanted others in the industry, the fans, to look at him. He didn't play the gangster role like this, right? You know what I'm saying? But behind the scenes, it seems like he was more gangster than Suge Knight. Well, I guess if you call this gangster. So it talks more about protecting the enterprise through intimidation, manipulation, bribery, threats of retaliation against individuals who witnessed the crimes committed by members and associates of the enterprise. So there is a lot. There is a lot here to unpack. We are reading the indictment, Shaman Diamond K, on firebroadcasting.com, on YouTube, DJ Diamond K. So now we're getting into the means and methods of the enterprise, and they are really hammering home some of these things. Among the means and methods by which Sean Combs, the defendant, and other members and associates of Combs Enterprises conducted and participated in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs Enterprise, and it includes A, Combs and other members and associates wielding the power and prestige of the Combs role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims. See that word, victims, into Combs' orbit. So they're seeking out females and using Diddy's name to absolutely, it is definitely getting big. Kiki, Kicking It with Kiki on YouTube says this case is getting big. It is. It really is. And here's the thing. This is a federal case. So when the feds are involved, they usually don't miss. They usually do not miss. So we're continuing with this, and it continues that they lured female victims into Combs' orbit, and this is using this is Diddy, this is Bad Boy, and at the time Revolt, of course, Revolt will act like they don't even know Diddy now. That's what they try to act like now, like they don't even know him, but they know him anyway. So they used force, threats of force, coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, freak-offs. Now, freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. So these recordings were used to force them to do other things, other recordings, and etc. It is a lot. Now, in arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy. Let me see what Kicking It with Kiki on YouTube says. This sounds too similar to the R. Kelly case, unfortunately. Absolutely. I agree with that. And the thing is that I think that this is going to be so much bigger because R. Kelly had a lot of money, but Diddy had so much more money, more assets, more people. There's more to it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to be tempted to say, oh my God, they tearing down a black man. And yeah, he was wilding though. Like he is wilding. It's not like this is just an innocent motorist on the street and the police just, targeted him. Diddy's been doing this for years. And in New York, like they gave Diddy the key to the city. Wow, that rhymed, right? Bars. Gave him the key to the city last year, a year ago. He's dropped that album, which was hot, and got the key to the city. And now look, now he is in the feds, and the Eastern District of New York is coming for him. Southern District. Anyway, arranging these freak-offs and the name is just so weird. These freak-offs, which occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days. What in the Roman filth is going on? The ancient Rome, how they used to do that kind of the crazy orgies and all that kind of stuff. Men, women, eunuchs, and yeah, like I don't know. I don't know. So these freak-offs lasted multiple days, often involved multiple commercial sex workers, like they're on shifts and all that. That's crazy. And so they have the drugs. During these freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to these victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos that he filmed of the victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Now that tops the R. Kelly stuff, right? That tops the R. Kelly stuff. So let me read that again. After the freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and the drug use. Oh, this was beyond crazy. This is beyond crazy. Continues, members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated freak-offs by, among other things, booking hotel rooms for freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak-off supplies. Now we're getting to the baby oil. This included controlled substances, right? That's drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting, because they got to make the videos good, cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, and arranging for travel for victims, commercial sex workers, and Combs to and from freak-offs, resupplying Combs with the requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay the commercial sex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. Can you imagine? This is, I'm thinking back to Superhead's first book. In Superhead's book, she talked about finding a male singer in the bed with Diddy, and his blood on the sheets and different things like that. And when she released this book in the early 2000s, maybe it was like 2008, 7, something like that, it seemed so far-fetched. Like, what is she talking about? Corinne Steffens, I'm talking about. She goes by another name now. But she had some of this stuff in the book, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy. I think it was it Tigger? She said it was in the room, something. And, the having the extra linen and some of these other things. This is kind of weird. This is wild, barbaric behavior. Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak-offs. Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance. That's definitely a Cassie thing there. Monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. During and separate from freak-offs, Combs, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. Their assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. The level of abuse that was going on, most people did not know, although there were several in that orbit that knew. So either they were scared, intimidated, or being blackmailed into not saying anything, or maybe there were more sinister things. Are there high-level folks in the music and entertainment industry, or even the political side of things, that participated in this debauchery? I would say stay tuned for that, because it probably is. Kicking It with Kiki on YouTube says, this sounds just like the Caucasian man that did similar things with young women that his girlfriend would recruit. Yes, you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein. It sounds exactly like that. Jeffrey Epstein she's talking about. And Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted participating in freak-offs. Victims believe they could not refuse Combs' demands without risking their financial or job security, or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Combs also used the sensitive, embarrassing, incriminating recordings that he made during freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence from his victims. So, people often throw around the word a monster. Somebody's a monster. This person's a monster. This is definitely, no doubt, monster-like behavior. Just tuning in, Jermaine Diamond K in here on YouTube. I am DJ Diamond K, and the website onfirebroadcasting.com. Of course, on all social media, I'm at the Diamond K Show. We're going through this indictment. This is the indictment of Sean P. Diddy Combs. And they talked about in his Los Angeles, California home, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise enabled Combs control over victims by following his directions regarding financial payments to victims, advancing or suppressing the victim's career opportunities, and acquiring the controlled substances that acquiring the controlled substances that Combs used to keep the victims compliant. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise at times witnessed Combs' violence towards the victims or the victims' injuries caused by Combs without intervening. There is a former security personnel of Diddy, I think is a Gene Deal, and others going around saying things. They've been saying things over for years and years. And many people were like, what are they talking about? He sounds so crazy. Why you didn't do something? Da, 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 da. And we're seeing these things being outlined in this indictment. Very damaging. I don't see how Diddy recovers from this. And it's so interesting when you think about it. It is so interesting. He has daughters, and the way he has treated women has just been atrocious. Atrocious. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding, sometimes for several days at a time, to recover from injuries Combs inflicted without being publicly observed. So we're talking about Cassie at bare minimum, but there are others. There's been so many allegations about his treatment of Kim Porter and others. I really don't know what to say about some of these things. Some of the rumors that we've heard over the years being outlined here within the pages of the indictment. I'm sure the attorneys have asked for others to come forward and want them to come forward soon. I think that there are other charges coming against other people. As we continue, so we're in the F section. When employees witnesses to his abuse or others threaten Combs' authority or reputation. So when somebody stood up and tried to challenge him, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial harm and reputational harm and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included kidnapping and arson. Kidnapping and arson. And he had the nerve and the gall to want to be called Love or Brother Love. In addition, on multiple occasions, Combs threw both objects and people, as well as hit, dragged, choked, and shoved others when Combs' authority and reputation was threatened by the possibility of a negative publicity or legal or law enforcement action against him, including in or about late 2023 following public allegations of Combs' crimes. Combs and members and associates of the enterprise pressed witnesses and victims, including through attempted bribery, to stay silent, not report what they had experienced or knew to law enforcement. Yeah, this is, I mean, how did he think he was going to just get away with this forever? On phone calls, Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise, among other things, provided these victims witnesses with false statements, false narratives of the events in an effort to conceal Combs' crimes. Combs caused these calls to be recorded on at least 2 occasions. And this is some of the things that are hurting him the most. The things that hurt Diddy the most are the things he did to himself. These videotapes, these cell phone recordings are going to be some of the most damaging things that are going to be presented in court. So we're under the title of the Racketeering Conspiracy. And it is as follows: from at least in or about 2008 through on or about the date of the filing of this indictment in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Combs, the defendant, and others known and unknown, meaning people that we know now and those that are yet to be named, being persons employed by and associated with Combs, described in the paragraphs 6 through 12 of this indictment. An enterprise engaged in the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering laws of the United States, to with Title 18 United States Code, Section 1962C, that is to conduct and participate directly and indirectly in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, as the term is defined in Title 18 U.S. Code Sections 196 Section 1 and 196 Section 5, which consist of multiple acts involving kidnapping, chargeable under the following provisions of state law: California Penal Code 207, which is kidnapping; California Penal Code 21, Section A; 664, attempt; California Penal Code 31, aiding and abetting; and California Penal Code 182, which is conspiracy. So multiple acts involving arson, chargeable under the following provisions of state law: California Penal Code 451, which is arson; California Penal Code 21A; 664, which is attempt; and California Penal Code 31, aiding and abetting; and California Penal Code 182, which is conspiracy. So they are really outlining this like this is a gang, like they the mob, and they go on talking about acts involving bribery, which is chargeable under California state law and a list of penal codes. Additionally, multiple acts that are related to tampering with a witness, a victim, and an informant, multiple acts related to forced labor, acts relating to sex trafficking, acts relating to transportation and the inducement to travel for purposes of prostitution and other illegal activities. So they have outlined a pretty standard case if we're talking about criminals. And you thought that this was a record label. This is so much more. Or are they just criminals kind of styling as a record label? So the notice of the special sentencing factor I find interesting. So from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of affairs of Combs enterprise through the pattern of racketeering activities, Sean Diddy Combs, the defendant, agreed to, in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize, and solicit by any means a person knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means the force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as directed in Title 18 United States Code, Section 1591 E and Section 2, and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in commercial sex acts in violation of the U.S. Code. Now, here's what's crazy. That's count one. We have read count one. We're almost finished, but we've read count one, which is extensive. Count one is extensive. Now, count two is related to trafficking by force, fraud, of coercion. And this is of victim one. The grand jury further charges from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Diddy Combs, the defendant, in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, advertised, maintained, patronized and solicited by any means a person knowingly and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as described in Title 18 and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial sex act and attempted, aided, and abetted, willingly cause to the same, Combs recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, maintained a person, victim one, who we assume to be Cassie, and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused victim one to engage in commercial sex acts knowingly and in reckless disregard of the fact that victim one was engaging in commercial sex acts as a result of force, fraud, or coercion. So whoever victim one is, and based on these facts, it seems to be Cassie, but they're saying that this victim was forced to participate, coerced into participating, and this was not something that they did willingly. That is going to be damaging. Now, some of you may say, wait, I thought Diddy paid Cassie. How is she going to then turn around and cooperate with the government? Oh, that was different. This is something that is completely out of the control of Cassie. She's not suing him, right? This is the government coming after him. So there have been others that have filed their own lawsuits against Diddy, and that's one thing. But this is something totally different, and the government coming after Diddy is not something that Cassie could stop at all. It is like a boulder coming downhill. The grand jury, and this is the third and the final count, the grand jury further charges from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in, on, or about 2024 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. Sean Diddy Combs, the defendant, knowingly transported an individual in interstate and foreign commerce with the intent that the individual engage in prostitution and attempted, aided, and abetted and willfully caused the same. Combs transported, aided, and abetted and willfully caused the transportation of female victims and commercial sex workers in interstate and foreign commerce on multiple occasions with the intent that they engage in prostitution. So it's not looking good. Okay, it is not looking good, and we are on page 13 of this 14-page indictment. There is the forfeiture of allegations as a result of committing the offense alleged in count 1 of this indictment. Sean Diddy Combs, the defendant, shall forfeit to the United States pursuant to Title 18 United States Code Section 1963 any and all interests the defendant acquired or maintained in violation of Title 18. Any money that he made while committing these acts or is going to be it is was he's a billionaire, right? They were saying he was a billionaire on paper. I don't think that's going to be for long. I don't think that's going to be for long. And paragraph 19, as a result of committing the offense alleged in count 2, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States pursuant to Title 18 any and all property, real and personal, involved in, used, or intended to be used to commit or to facilitate the commission of said offense, and any and all property traceable to such property, any and all property, real and personal, constituting or derived from proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as a result of said offense, including but not limited to a sum of money in United States currency representing the amount of property involved in said offense and proceeds traceable to the commission of said offense. Yes, they are coming for Diddy's money. They are coming for Diddy's money. This is going to be ugly. And so that is one of the main reasons why he's separated with a lot of businesses that he was working with. He's talking about trying to sell his plane and paid off his house and different things. And paragraph 20, as a result of committing the offense alleged in count 3 of this indictment, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States pursuant to Title 18 United States Code Section 2428 any and all property, real and personal, constituting or derived from the proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as a result of said offense, and any and all property, real or personal, that was used or intended to be used to commit or facilitate the commission of said crime. There is a producer that worked with Diddy on the last album that he released. So you know how they went after R. Kelly streams and money made from his music. This sounds like they're going to do something very similar to Sean P. Diddy Combs. And so substitute this section, paragraph 21, substitute assets provision. If any of the above described forfeiture property as a result of any act or omission by the defendant, A, cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, B, has been transferred or sold to or deposited with a third person, C, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, D, has been substantially diminished in value, or E, has been commingled with other property which cannot be subdivided without difficulty. It is the intent of the United States pursuant to Title 18 United States Code Section 1963, Title 21 United States Code Section 853, and Title 28 United States Code Section 2461, Section C, to seek forfeiture of any other property of the defendant up to the value of the above forfeiture property. And it is signed by the United States attorney, the foreperson of the grand jury has been protected. And so you think about his children. You think about the artists that he's worked with, the partners that he's had, and all these different things, and how these actions are going to affect their money. They're going to take all of Diddy's money. The government, victims, whatever it is, the money going to be gone. Now, is Diddy going to be safe in prison? We talked about the similarities between Diddy and Jeffrey Epstein, who was on a similar path, right? Having a bunch of young girls around, powerful people. They weren't freaking off to the point where they needed IVs like Diddy and these crazy parties. But you ever notice whenever someone talked about Diddy and his parties, oh, I can't do that, or they all know what happens. So this is the Justin Biebers, the Ushers, the whoever, the different ones that you've seen talk to claim that they're such good friends with Diddy, right? Or you see people say, oh, I never partied with Diddy. I never partied with Diddy. Because it was known what was happening. It was known what was going on. And so are they liable? Are there going to be other people that pay the price here with Diddy? Does Diddy have some folks on videotape that are really high on the food chain, higher than he is? Oh, yeah, there are a lot of questions yet to be answered. And tomorrow on the show, we're going to talk about somebody. I don't know if I consider him higher on the food chain, Kevin Liles, but we're going to talk about Kevin Liles, who, as I said, stepped down today from his role as CEO of a record company, hip hop record company called 300 Entertainment. He worked at Def Jam previously. He's from Baltimore, and he is stepping down. And the timing seems a bit interesting. I'll say that, a bit interesting. He's been in the game for many years. Was in a rap group here in Baltimore called the New Marks. He had a big song that Milli Vanilli ended up redoing, Girl, You Know It's True, for those that remember that. And Kevin Liles went on to be a big deal in the music industry. And we're going to talk about his career tomorrow, the career of Kevin Liles, and we're going to do some more updates as it relates to this disaster of Sean Diddy Combs. We have gone through this federal indictment pretty extensively. I've read the entire 14-page indictment here on the show. This came from the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, United States of America versus Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, Love, the defendant. It is a sprawling 3-count indictment. And it's a lot. It is a lot. I don't know. I was talking to a DJ last week, 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about Diddy records. And I asked him, like, do you play Diddy records? Like, do you still play Diddy records at the party? He's like, yeah, certain ones, right? And so he's like, certain songs. So he's like, certain songs he played, certain songs he didn't play. But when this is all said and done, are DJs going to play any Diddy records? I don't know. Do you fans, do you want to hear Diddy records? And so when I say a Diddy record, do I mean a Mary J record? I mean, if it's a song that you can hear him like in the background, like, yeah, yeah, we don't stop that. If you can hear that, do you consider that a song you don't want to hear no more? Like, I don't know, Biggie, can we still play Biggie? Can we still play Mary J, Lil Kim? Can you still play the Benjamins? 112, Faith Evans? I don't know. We'll talk about that. Let me know in the comment section, of course, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, at The Diamond K Show. Of course, make sure you subscribe on youtube.com/DJ Diamond K. On all social media, I am at The Diamond K Show. Of course, on Substack, DJ Diamond K, and on firebroadcasting.com. I will see you guys tomorrow. This has been interesting. We've unpacked the indictment. Diddy is I think Diddy is history. I think he's history.